For this part, we'll continue with the midships details, primarily the deck hatches and skylights, and there's quite a number of them. And we'll also do the stern and bow ones at the same time, just to get them all done in one hit. We use the Pontos ones for this, and they just show you the two different styles, which is like an open top box and an enclosed box with the different covers on top. Okay, so these are all the deck hatches or skylights, all cut out and cleaned up. So I put them into individual cups purely because they're all very similar but slightly different. So I want to keep them together so I don't get mixed up. I've also cut out the corresponding kit part just as a bit of a reference for me. Now the bulk of them are made up of two styles of boxes, either an open top type box where the grill goes on and then the hatch goes on top, or a fully enclosed box where the skylight part goes on top. So we'll have a look at making both styles. I've also cut out everything for the bow and the stern as well, because I'll do them all in one hit even though I'm concentrating on the midships area. Okay, so we'll start with the open top boxes first. And I've got a couple of different styles here just to show you. So one style has the gable end on the long side and the other one has the gable on the short side. But in the fold up, slightly different. So hopefully you can see if you follow this fold line here, it actually sits inside this end panel, which means this folds up onto the ends of this. On this one, it's in reverse, where if you follow the short fold line, it sits inside the long edge. So these fold up in between the two. It just means on the edges, the exposed edge is on a different face. But when we come to solder them up and fold them up, it's important then. So you have to apologise because the camera didn't film the first time I did this. This is my second attempt. But for cleanup, we'll use a fiberglass pen, and we just come in and clean off any contaminants or whatever from the surface. So I've already did it, but we'll do it again. Now, if you don't have a fiberglass pen, you can use some fine paper, whether wet and dry or just normal sandpaper. I found 600 in coarser leaves quite considerable scratches on the brass, so this is 800 I think. But as you can see, it cleans it up just as well. A bit more awkward, and that's convenient to use the. Okay, so we'll fold these up next. So on this one with the long gables, the end panels sit on the outside. Try and make it so you can see. So we just push up around 90 even. Okay, so then we do the ends now. And there we go, it's looking quite good. Now, because of the spring in the metal, it's not fully closed, but that's okay. And in fact, if I wasn't doing this on camera, there's a step I would have did beforehand, which I forgot. So hopefully these don't snap off, bending them back. So that's fine, we'll leave that for the time being. We'll come into the short gable. Now remember, this one here, the ends sit inside. Now again, I went ahead and bent them without preparing them properly. So the short sides go inside the two edges, and that's actually worked okay. But what I'll do, I'll solder this one up slightly different in how I've decided to do the soldering. So hopefully it's showing up. It's a bit too far, it's like went over 90, but we can push it back a bit because we want the edges to be flush. So we can just bend it back a bit. And this end, it's not too bad. So actually what I might do is I might solder this one up in one of the alternate methods. I've been trying different things just to see what's easiest, quickest, neatest, whatever. And this will be one alternative we can see. And then on this one, will do my preferred method. It's a bit trickier now because I should have tinned it before I started bending. So again, we'll use the DC Concepts liquid flux and their Sapphire 179 solder wire. So we'll just apply some liquid flux. Now, if you remember, this end closes against the edges of the long sides. And we're using a slightly different method here, but the long edge is the exposed side because this one fits inside. That one will be the quicker and easier one to solder up. So with the soldering iron up to temperature and cleaned, we'll just put a touch of solder on the end. We don't need a great deal. And then on these edges here, I'll just tin the edge. To watch you don't burn your fingers, because even just touching it as quick as that, the brass part got up to temperature very quickly. Now, I'm not sure if you can see a thin coat on the ends of that edge there, so it will be very hard to see. And then what we'll do is we'll close up the two sides. Again, because they've already been pre-bent or bent already, they're going in quite easily. And then this is the final, just tweaking to get the corner 100%, 90 degrees. Okay, so that's that. So with because there's a bead of solder, it's a wee bit rough. So the pressure, this will just hold it, and then once we apply the heat and melt it, the pressure will close the gap if there's anything. So now we'll clean off all the solder from the soldering iron and just apply the heat. Okay, now we'll do the same for the other edge. Now, all going well, we'll release the pressure. They should still be soldered. That one can move, which isn't good. That one's solid. That side can move. That one's okay. So the two alternate are there, no corners. Didn't fully solder, but that's okay. What we'll do is, and this is what we're going to do to this one. Again, we'll just apply some solder, and then we'll just touch the edges. Hopefully you can see that. And that's all the edges secured now. So for this one, that's the process, only we haven't pre-tinned. I'll just apply some more liquid flux. Clean the iron. Apply some solder. So we want to work on the ends of the box because that's where the joint is. Okay, so slightly more solder on the surface than the previous way, but so hopefully, actually maybe pre-tinning isn't necessary, because as you can, or maybe you can't, but hopefully you can see the solder actually runs through into the inside anyway. So we know this joint is like fully secure. There's no way it's going anywhere. So that's the way to go. We just need to clean up the excess on this outside surface. So that's the two different styles of open top boxes done. This one was the pre-tinned edges. and there's a lot less cleanup. The one where we've just put a bead of solder straight over the joint, a wee bit heavier, but a lot quicker and easier. So we just need to clean up that excess solder now. So you can come in with your photo etch file. As you can see, I've actually removed all the solder from that side, but it's still secured because the surface, inside surface has got solder on it. That's it, almost done. Now again, if you wanted, you could just come in with some fine paper. This is, I think, 800. Try to get so the light's not shining, but then it's a perfect corner. With no gap and no edge of the photo etch. Just a bit more filing because of the heavier application of solder, but it comes off so quickly. Okay, so that's that one cleaned up. Hopefully you can see how nice and clean and sharp the corners are. Keep my hands out of the way. So this one had the pre-tinning. You can still make out the edge of the photo etch, so maybe can't feel it there, but we can see it. Anyway, that's soldered up. This is the way to go, I think. Oh, but you have to be careful because some of the solders went through to the other side or around to the other side. Okay, on to the next step. Now you could be using CA glue or another glue of choice for this, but the strength of this is far superior. It's a lot more work, of course, but you're just not going to damage these or have the joints separate through normal or even rough handling. They're going to make it so much easier just for holding and manipulating and things. So that's the reason I'm going to this level. So the two styles of boxes, the grills that go on top now fit slightly differently as well. So we'll have a look at both. Now, the method of bending these, I don't like the design. So hopefully you can see there's two bend marks, which means going to be a fine flat strip in the centre with the grills bending downwards. And because they're so close together, trying to bend that tight it's quite difficult. But again, let's do that. Getting it onto one line. Now the angle's not a great deal, and then because you've put an angle in one, you now have to somehow push that very thin strip to get the bend to start. Now, I don't know if you can see, we've got the two bends in, but that thin centre strip isn't really flat because you're bending against such a thin strip, but that's how it is. I'll do the same for this one. That one, probably can't see, does actually have a better flat than the other one. So for this one, the grill actually sits in between the two sides based on its width, so it's a nice tight fit, or it's a nice fit between them, but now you have to somehow place this in and keep it flush with the top, even though it sits inside. So that's can be quite tricky. The other one sits inside the box this way with some gap, but it needs to sit on the two long edges, which again is tricky because it wants to either fall over one side or fall in. So if it's falling in, just give it a squeeze to widen it and it will grab onto the two edges. But we'll look at each one in turn and fixing them. So the method I've kind of come up with is quite clunky. And I need to kind of, so I try and get it just to the inside of the box. And holding it with a close peg and then trying to get the same. And then from side to side you can then try and manipulate it to get it in. It's almost going back and forth from side to side. So this side here I'm just clamping is pretty good. It's hopefully you can see it's done past the surface and almost flush. And then just need to kind of poke this in. So that's now flush inside there. We'll just grip it. So hopefully you can see a gap, which means it's too high in the centre, so it needs to just get pushed in. And again this side. And then that's pretty much it. So we'll leave that because we'll come back in and solder it. For this one, what I've came up with is some close pegs here which grip it on either side and is just slightly higher than the top edge. If I put another one here, and then if I flatten this out, I can now offer up one side and sit it on top, and pushing against the close pegs, it means that it doesn't drop over the edge. I'm sure there's easier ways than this, but okay, so now both sides are in position. So the top is sitting flush with his face here, and top sitting flush with his face. Okay, so we'll go back to soldering. I hopefully can take this one off. Don't know if you can see it's sunk in below slightly, but that's okay, I'm not going to worry too much because this gets covered again. Okay, so I'll get the soldering iron ready. I'll just put some liquid flux. And then what I'm going to do this time is just apply some slivers of solder on the edge. Because I don't want to minimise the cleanup here because of the grill. And then with a clean soldering tip and that flux tin this time. Not sure if you can see that. There's little bits of solder in there. We'll do the same for the other end. A nice little bead in the corner. We haven't really covered the grill too much. So that's that one. Now for this one, I think what we did for the base, because it's going to be flush anyway. And that is, we'll just put some solder on the end there, and we'll just touch it against. Okay. Just a couple of points. This side here has a wee bit of a bend in it, so we can squeeze it closer together with a peg, which we can. Let's give this another try. Don't think I fluxed this. That's better. Okay, so now that hopefully is the two covers. Again, we'll just take off the excess. I'll use this because I can hold it closer to the camera. This is 1200. Now I don't really, some overflow in and the front face will take off. The last step where we put these on. So this one is for this style here. And again, that's why I think this is the easiest one. This only has a simple bend in the middle. And you can just fold it by hand, roughly to shape, and place it on. And it's more or less there already. This one's a lot more tricky, because again, you've got the two folds with hopefully a flat center to do, which is very difficult. Also, they've made these so you could open individual hatches, which means that there's not much strength holding them between them. So these ones are very frustrating. And again, you're left with a very thin edge that you have to try and bend. And then that sits across the way like that. This one's very annoying. You've almost got 4 individual panels you're trying to manipulate at the same time. Now what I've done for the ones I've done previously as a test was I used Ultra Glue by Mikasa, but it was very frustrating. They'd slide for about, so again I might try soldering these, which means I should have cleaned them up. But what I might try, just clean up, strip down each side, and I'll solder tin to that strips and see if I can get it to sit on the edges there. So, some flux. So what I'll try and do now, what I'll do now is center this. I know on this one, that edge should be flush with the edge of the box, and that edge is flush as well. So we just need to center the overhang on both sides. And this is where I got really frustrating using the glue, because it would slide back and forth. As it sits now, it's quite good for overhang, and then it's flush at the two ends. So all I need to do now is apply some heat. Now if I apply heat to reactivate the solder, yeah, 100% convinced about soldering the top one. But regardless, the next thing to do is just bend the dogs up 90 degrees. I'm just using a pair of eyebrow tweezers that I've filed. For these ones I've already done, I used the acrylic glue for the tops, and I think I'll do the same moving forward. Oh, there's it next to the kit part. So for this one and this top, we'll resort back to using the Ultra Glue. I wasn't happy with how the solder worked on this one. It's not too bad. It's not too bad there if I can clamp this side. Yeah, look at this. It's very frustrating, this one. Got a bit of a slight kink. Like I say, there's 4 individual panels just held together very loosely at a couple of points. Trying to address each one's a bit of a pain. So here's a similar one, which is a bit more successful. The solid lids obviously, but went together a lot easier. So I'll let this set up, but essentially that's this one done. Okay, we'll move on to the fully enclosed box. Now, as usual, we'll just clean it up. Now, up until now, I've been just cleaning the inside. But as I've been working through all the other ones off camera, I'm slowly developing the methodology for getting the best soldering out of it. And what I'm going to do is just clean up around the sides here. Hopefully you can see, because I've reduced the amount of solder I need and where I put it for the other ones, but we'll have a look at that next. So as usual, we'll put the folds in. Again, we'll just check to see what overlaps what. So in this case, the two ends overlap the sides, but we'll form the sides first. We'll just check to make sure it's 90 degrees. It's hard to do it with the camera in front. Then we can fold this one up. I found as well as you can actually pinch it a bit more that way. So just have a look. It's not too bad. I think this side one needs to come in a bit more. So what I've been doing, again changing my method here, is I've been bending up this ends next. And then we know the ends are going to overlap the sides. So with the two ends in position, we can fine tune the sides just to make sure they're fully flush. Hopefully you can see. So that corner is okay. That's going to be okay. That's not too bad. Maybe come out a wee bit. It'll be fine. And push this back one out a wee bit. So what I'm trying to do is just form the corner first and make it pretty much spot on prior to soldering. And I'm leaving this unfolded for the time being, and we'll come back and do it once it's soldered. So I've actually prepared quite a number of them ready to go for soldering. This one here is tricky. I found using these bending pliers, long thin ones are a bit tricky to do as opposed to smaller stumpier ones. And then I've got a few other boxes here. And again, as you can see, I'm slowly changing the method. So I'm going to solder all the corners first. So as usual, we'll apply the flux. And I'm just going to touch into these sides here. So hopefully you can see I can squeeze the joint shut with my nail. And I'll just fine tune the position of it. So using soldering iron, we'll just pick up just a little bit of solder. And then because I'm only using my nail in such a short time, I'm not really getting burnt. And I'll just leave it a few seconds to go off or to set up. And that's that one. I'll just do the same for this back side. So again, just double checking it's a perfect corner. Pick up a bit of solder. I just want to touch. I would normally go to that side, but then you wouldn't see it so well. So again, just squeezing it with my nail, it's closed up the gap. And then we'll just touch it. And then just the last side to do. You might see some etch detail there, and that's what I'm trying to avoid by keeping it to the edge. And then that's it. So that's it, pretty much square on now. And I've only got the solder on the ends on one side to do rather than all round. Now that that's set up, we can now fold the lid down. It's now inside the box, which is what we want. Maybe slightly under, but that's okay because remember, we've got the cover to go on top. Let's put a bit of flux in this corner here, and we'll do the other side. And that's all you need in the top. So remember, if it's got any lights in it, sort of skylights, it'll be in the center, so it's okay here. So then we'll just come to clean it up, and again, we've only got excess solder on the corners to do. So that's almost all the solder gone from that side. And then we'll just go across the top, take off any highest points of the solder. I'll just show you soldering up the other box, because this one might be a bit clearer. It's easier to hold and I can show you better. So hopefully this one here, the end sits inside the two sides, and you can actually see the edge of the long side is flush with the end. Because it's a nice, really nice fit, I don't need to apply any pressure, and I can actually see both the edge detail that I know to avoid, and that's it. So you can see how much cleaner that is. And again on this one, that's it. So really just on the two ends. So with the lid sitting flush inside the box, and we've got some edge detail, but plenty of space in between. So what we'll do is we'll just, that's where we'll make our join, just on that end, that edge, so just got the tiniest bit. And then that's enough to secure. So the cleanup in this one's going to be minimal. So really just the lid to glue on. And this is, the lids are the ones that's annoying me, because I like to be able to solder them, but I can't seem to get the technique. And I'm not 100% happy with the glue method. But I might just try. Because you have to remember, I'm kind of testing and trying things as I go. I'm not an expert in soldering, but I'll see if I can tin it and solder it. So that's it tinned, and I'll just flux this. I'll probably do this off camera, but I need to position this because I think there's a lip all the way around. Okay, so I think I've got it pretty much centered. So if I apply heat to both the side and the top, I should be able to get that to... Still not 100% happy with that. I think the lids, I'll just continue to glue them on. Yeah, I'll just glue the lids. So the last thing again is just to bend up the dogs. Okay, so I'll just go off and glue the rest of the lids on to all the other ones, and then we can come back. Okay, so that's all the deck hatches and skylights soldered up and glued up and whatnot. So there's 31 all up. A couple of things I want to point out. I've turned up all the dogs vertically because all the hatches are shut. But some of these ones here, you can see I've turned up the hinges. If you look at the back, there's actually edge hinge detail on the backs as well. But I've got a feeling a lot of these sit against the structure, hard against it, which means if I fold the hinges down, it will push it forward and potentially off the wood deck. So I've put them up initially. I'll try them up when it comes time, and if I can, I'll bend them flat. If not, I'll leave them sticking up. For gluing on the tops, the skylights and the lids and hatches and whatnot, I never got on to getting a good method. I ended up using all these ultra glue, thin and gel, CA and solder in some case, and sometimes combinations, because I couldn't get a method down. The next step is, which I'm not going to show because we've seen spray painting, is we'll give them a prime and then we'll give them the hull colour. These are just blue tacked onto icicle sticks, lollipop sticks, and I've kept them together because again I don't want to muddle them up. This one here is a bit strange, and I've got a question mark because even on the Pontos plans it shows 3 lights. This has only got 2, so once I start placing them on the deck, I'll get a better idea. This one here is an interesting one, a fairly straightforward box. And as you can see, there's like a handle on the edge of the lid, but it's actually right next to the dog. So you actually bend it up with the dog, but it puts a strange twist into the flat foot wedge. So I was tempted to grab the front of the handle and bend that vertically as well, but I wasn't sure what would happen at the corners, so I've just left it. We'll get on to paint next. Okay, so that's all the deck hatches and skylights finished, primed and painted. I'll just store them away until they're ready to be fitted. On the whole, they're not too bad. A few of them could be better, some of them are okay. I guess as a first real go at soldering up these types of things, they turned out not too bad. As mentioned through the video, the lids were the most frustrating part of it all. But yeah, that's them done.